brought to you by Ford, going further so you can. And by Monster Energy. Unleash the beast. Xfinity final practice just ended a few minutes ago, and it ended a little sooner than everyone thought because of this. 21 of Daniel Hemrick snaps loose and slams into the turn 4 wall.
It seemed to be clear a mechanical failure of some sort on the rear suspension. You see the rear end housing basically moved inside the race car like it shouldn't, causing that accident. And then look at the track cleanup, Jeff. A lot of speedy drive put down to get the track back in condition. And those Xfinity cars never went back on the track. So that's what it looks like there. It seems like the start of that is out of the groove. But down by that monster sign right at the bottom of the speedy drive, it seems like the racing groove gets up close to that speedy drive.
Yeah, it was 19 minutes left in practice when this happened, and they never got on the, like you said, they never got back on the racetrack. And I'm sure NASCAR has cleaned that off very well, and it's probably just staining, but you'd be a little reluctant to be the first one to drive through it.
Oh, yeah, no, Daniel, just jump back in this 27. You go about 50 miles an hour faster on the straightaways than this one, it should be fine.
Congratulations to Paul and Jennifer Menard as they welcome their second child, Oluka, to the family. And that is why Daniel Hemrick is behind the wheel of the 27 right now. Paul is with the family still. And so Daniel Hemrick is subbing for him. He did in the practice earlier. He's going to for this qualifying session. Daniel Hemrick, a busy weekend. He's also racing for a championship in the Xfinity Series.
See the clock, it's almost down to 18 minutes. So the track has been open now for almost 2 minutes, and this 27 will be the first car to go out.
Well, how about this? He was the last car on the track in the Xfinity practice, and now he's going to be the first car on the track in Cup qualifying.
Well, if he is going to indeed get out of the car and Paul Menard's going to get in the car, then they're going to start last anyway.
That's right.
And so, you know, what's the point? Why go out there and put this car in a difficult situation? So I'm not so sure that I'm going to expect to see a full-blown qualifying and 100% just go get you some qualifying lap, just because the risk isn't worth there's no really reward.
Pit selection, probably about the only thing that he's shooting for here.
I'd say on this racetrack, I don't think that's a huge issue. The timelines the way they are now.
So, Jeff, the interesting thing as the 27 comes in is I was going to wonder if this was a strategy move. So we talk a lot about the racetrack and the reconfiguration. But what we haven't talked about, because it doesn't appear this way, is it's a repave. This is only the second race. I say it doesn't appear this way because doesn't it look weathered? It kind of has that faded look, and there's some patches. But this is only the second Cup race on this new surface. And when that happens, Rick, Goodyear's kind of forced to bring a very durable tire. Sometimes that tire doesn't have the most amount of grip when it's cold and brand new like it would at most other racetracks. Here, actually, a little bit of time on the tire and especially some heat makes a difference. So you wonder if the 27 went out, ran a half lap, put a little temp in the tires, and now it will come in and make up a plan for a qualifying run.
He didn't officially come back by the finish line, so he doesn't have a lap. Qualifying, he didn't go out, got up to speed. But you see him backing that one back into the stall that they were in earlier. Let's go back down trackside to Kelly.
And back here in the garage, actually, Rick, where we still have a few of the playoff drivers waiting to go through tech inspection yet again. You can see the 11 of Denny Hamlin with the 4 of Kevin Harvick behind him, and a couple cars back is the 24 of Chase Elliott. I know last time I reported the 24 was going through the second time, so this appears to be the third time. And now that we're down to, 16 minutes left in this session, we still have a number of these guys that have a lot on the line this weekend, still waiting for their chance to get out there.
So I'm not going to say I'm the strongest guy in Texas Motor Speedway on math, but as I look at that line, and you figure it takes, 45 seconds a car, times 10 or 12 cars, simple math alone would say I am not sure if all of these cars are going to make it through. We see right there, crew chief on the 5. Big announcement this week that he'll be full-time crew chief, what will become the car number 24 with William Byron. Don't get caught up with the car numbers and the teams because they're all swapping around, but big adjustment for Darian Grubb, full-time back on top of the pit box into 2018.
Ray Black Jr. is the first one to actually register a time in this qualifying session. He goes 28.861 seconds, a little over 187 mile per hour average speed. In practice earlier, we saw the Cup cars at 199 miles an hour average speed, so we're expecting quite a pickup.
I think what's interesting too, as this clock just sits here and ticks, winds itself down is, remember, we saw a lot of cars go out the second time in practice and run faster on these tires. So this clock is ticking. And what's going to happen is when people realize they need to run quicker, they're going to have less time to go make that second lap. So the last 3 or 4 minutes of this practice, this qualifying session, could get very chaotic. I understand why you don't want to be the first guy to go, but if I'm somebody that was right on the verge, you know, thinking about, you know, let's say Jimmy Johnson, he was 19th fastest in practice. Joey Logano, 22nd. Maybe you go ahead and make this run. You go ahead and run, put a lap on them, make a change to your car, and go back and make a second lap, because a lot of cars went faster the second time. So would be a consideration.
So there's some cars sitting on pit road just waiting as a clock ticks a little bit closer to 14 minutes to go. The big story a week ago was a major announcement in the Cup Series as far as a new full-time driver. And Parker, I believe you've caught up with him.
That I have, Rick. Darrell Wallace Jr. down here being an interested spectator, just watching things with me in this qualifying session. You're saying you're not envying them right now, though, because it's pretty sketchy out there in that racetrack. It's pretty fast.
It was sketchy in the spring, I know that. But I'm definitely jealous. I want to be driving, of course, but out here in Texas, we had a big announcement today for the 43 car. Announced our sponsor for the Daytona 500. Click and Close by Mid-Mortgage America, so excited to have them on. A new partner in the sports, which is big. But right here, just standing in old IRB's pit stall. Couple roles I could need to fill in for him in case he needs some lessons learned, or his bodyguard, especially after last week.
What are you going to teach him?
Can't tell you my secrets, bud.
That's true. You got to keep those secrets here. You're saving them for 2018, guys. Darrell Wallace Jr. down here watching his buddy Ryan Blaney from his pit.
Well, and that right there is why I'm so excited to see Darrell Wallace Jr. in the Cup side, because he has that personality. He's going to become a fan favorite. See, like, I mean, He's the guy that I think, I mean, you got to tell the whole story, right? He was in the top 5 in points, and his deal shut down out from underneath him. Roush Fenway closes up their Xfinity car program. So, you know, here's the guy that was going to run for Xfinity Championship, and early in the season it goes away. He has 6 Truck Series wins, and then he had that chance to fill in. Unfortunately for Eric Almirola, when his back was injured, I thought he did a nice job. And I just think he's the type of personality that full-time in the Cup Series is going to be fun to watch.
So the car is still sitting on pit road. Nobody taking on the mile-and-a-half here at Texas. Let's check back in with Otto Boulder.
So guys, this is my first time seeing this racetrack in person, but I have seen it on the simulator. That's the bad news, because I did not do well in the simulator, and one of the reasons why, and I frustrated Alex Bowman greatly because he was my coach. One of the reasons why is because in my original sport, when I see lines, I try to stay within them. I looked on the simulator and I saw all these lines which have nothing to do with the line around the race course. So my question to you is, why all the lines here in Texas?
Jeff, why don't you answer that one?
It's a good question. To be honest with you, Otto, I've always wondered why there's lines. And I would tell you that some drivers, they really use those lines to just kind of set up where they want to be. So, you know, we talk about hitting your marks. Drivers make that comment all the time, hitting your marks. So that means putting your car where it needs to be. And without those lines on the racetrack, there's really no reference. Everything's just, you know, black asphalt or concrete. And it's hard to know where you are on the racetrack. So the lines really are a reference for the drivers and where they want the car to be. It's really not a guideline on where you're supposed to be from a rule standpoint. It's just for the drivers.
So, David Reagan has decided that he will take on the track. Is this a surprise to you that this is just the second car? This is the second car that has gone, and 9 minutes have already clicked off of the clock.
I'm a little surprised. I thought there were some cars that had a tremendous amount of speed over the 24th position. You look at someone like the 78 of Martin Truex Jr., who's rolling down pit road now. He had almost a half a second over 24th. I would have thought he would have gone out, put a lap up, see if it was good enough, and be prepared, Jeff, as you mentioned, to run a second time if needed. But just, you know, it's easier once there's a time on the board to kind of sit back and wait.
I scratch my head because I think all this is doing is putting them closer to the next time they have to go out onto the track. Because the later you go in this session, that's the closer you're going to go out in the next session.
But here, that's an advantage because the temperature will stay in the tires. So normally when you talk about cooling your tires for grip at this repave, I think if you could come out in, cool the engine as quick as possible, and go right back out, you would run even faster. The warm tires on this surface are going to be an advantage. The disadvantage is much like we saw what happened to Daniel Hemrick in the Xfinity, if that happens while you're out making your qualifying run, your time can be thrown away, and you just might not have time for another run.
That's David Starr. David, a Texas native out of Houston, Texas. I'm sure he was celebrating after Houston was able to win the World Series just a couple days ago. So David Starr on his first lap, 30.579. Not sure the time he was looking for, as McMurray now has taken to the track.
We're going to find out now where the racetrack stands. Jamie was 11th fastest in practice, so we're watching this. All of pit road is watching this to see how fast he can run, and it'll give you a really good idea where the racetrack is.
It's about the lowest we've seen anyone run through 1 and 2.
I was thinking the same thing, Rick. I expected him to be a few feet off that white line, but he went all the way down to the white line. He had run a 27:30 in practice. This looks like it's going to be reasonably close to that. 45, a touch slower.
So 196.714 miles per hour average speed.
I got the 96 covered, Rick, and someone else is going to have to run the other 100.
Uh-huh.
I think one issue also is that as I look out the window where we are, I see Chase Elliott's car just now rolling into the inspection area. So I think for these cars on the racetrack or on pit road as well is trying to figure out how many cars you're going to have to qualify against. Maybe not everybody's going to make it out of Tech. Still 4 cars, 3 cars rather, the 4, 11, and 24. I see also the 20.
Hamlin just came out of Tech, and it looks as though he's jumping into the car. As we see Ryan Blaney.
He was the fastest in practice.
We discussed that strategy by Daniel Hemrick. As you see Ryan Blaney, you see on the bottom right of your screen the 27 by Hemrick back on the racetrack. So I think that was a plan to run a half a lap and put some temperature in the tires.
27:32 is the mark now. Blaney has posted it. But again, the goal here, be the fastest 24. You don't have to be the fastest out there. You just got to be in the top 24.
24th is as good as first. You're going to get a chance to run again in the second round.
Riding along with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
And Daniel Hemrick, the speed he just ran at 27:55 in practice, they would have put him in the top 24.
Ooh. A lot of time out of throttle right there for the 88. Still not killing them, losing a little bit of time, but not as much.
But I think that's a great example of how different these corners are. If you were see this corner, I mean, how much throttle time he was in, and he still lost time. So that shows you quite clearly how different the corners are. He gave up a lot of time at 1 and 2, but still 3rd fastest.
The good news is that lap time right there should easily get him in the top 24.
Austin Dillon. And he's got the Olympic rings.
As soon as I said that, Jeff, I looked at my time chart. I do think it's going to get him in the top 24. I might retract my easily statement, but I think Earnhardt Jr. won't have to run again. With 6.5 minutes left, I just don't see, the time. And how about Jimmy Johnson? This is the car that we all have our eyes on. You talked about it right at the top of the show. Disappointment at Martinsville. They come here, struggle mechanically in practice. Only really got, 2 real runs in. So this right here, this time instantly is looking good for the 48. If he can continue this pace back, this lap should be easy for the 48 to feel good enough to get into the second round.
Second quickest at a 27:42.
And you said it. That should get them in easily, but I think that makes them feel really good. Like they made 2 runs, they made some changes, they came out, and obviously as Eric Jones goes to the top of the board, but obviously 48 made some big gains.
27:14 now is the time. Eric Jones has posted as we see Kyle Busch. He goes second quickest at 27.22. That will be fine is the words over the radio for him that they feel comfortable that will stay in the top 24. Kyle Larson in the 42 on the track, as is Brad Keselowski in the 2. Keselowski trending in the green compared to Eric Jones. We're still comparing to the number 1 time until 24 drivers have taken to the track, and with only 5 minutes to go, it's going to have to pick up quickly.
Rick, there are some contenders, some big names in the garage here that I would have had in the top 24. And as I continue, we show you the action on the racetrack. When I get to cheat and look out the window and look at the garage here, it's a lot of movement in a lot of directions. So I think some will make it out to qualify, but there will be some cars that do not get a chance to put a lap in this session.
Clint Boyer. Let's go to Kelly.
Rick, down here and back in the garage, I think the 11 and 4 both got cleared, so they should be hustling to get out there. The 24 is going through the last phase of inspection. Chase Elliott standing by, eagerly awaiting, and we'll see here in any minute now if they actually get cleared.
They're having to resituate onto the pads there. You saw the crew jump to that. So Kurt Busch goes to the top of the chart now at 199.269 miles per hour. That's his average speed around this track.
Well, Jeff, you talked about it was time for the 24 to recover, to go back to him and be in inspection. You know, he may get out here, maybe fine and may get a chance, but this is a lot of stress on this young man not to have a lot of time to think about what he's going to have to do. Under 4 minutes right now, you see he's strapping the helmet on. The team's going to get the car, make final preparations. Important that the team doesn't overlook something. Very easy to forget something at this point. Make sure you get your tire pressure set correctly. So he needs to get out there and get a lap in. He should be able to make the top 24, but this is cutting it off and close.
Well, and also the spotter right now, he's got to start, with limited time, he's going to have to find a hole for Chase Elliott to get this car into. So this is a stressful situation for all involved.
I tell you, the direction they're
they're going the wrong way.
Yeah. They took a left, and I thought that was a good sign for the 24, but I can tell as now Chase Elliott takes his helmet off. I think that's confirmation, Kelly, that this 24 car is not going to go on the racetrack.
Yeah, it's definitely, they're going the wrong direction for sure. And we'll see if we can catch up to Chase.
He was one of the 9 cars here in the spring that didn't even get a lap. Started 33rd in that race, finished 9th, but 26 points behind. Emotional letdown with that accident at Martinsville, getting wrecked by Denny Hamlin late in that running. This is just one more kind of brick on the wall, right? I mean, it's just one more thing that's got to be just tough for this young man to try to overcome. But now we still have cars on the racetrack trying to make the top 24. And look at the names that this might open up the door for. You have DeBenedetto on 23rd, McDowell 22nd, Buscher 19th, Castle in 17th, Reagan. All these cars, Rick, now have a chance perhaps to move on.
There's only 2.5 minutes left, and we have
at least 10
cars, 11, 12 cars that have not hit the racetrack. Some of those aren't going to because they haven't passed 10.
Kevin Harvick now on the track.
That was pretty good.
All right, good job.
He won.
It took him very little time. Kelly.
Well, one driver that we know will not be out there is Chase Elliott in the 24 car. Just couldn't get through tech. So you know what you face now on Sunday, starting from the back. How do you get this done?
Yeah, we'll just have to kind of play it by ear and see what happens. We had I thought a decent car today throughout race practice and swapped over and had really drove pretty good in qualifying trim. I was kind of excited about qualifying, which qualifying hasn't been a real strong suit for me, but looking forward to Sunday. And again, we know we got to start in the back, so we'll try to have a good practice tomorrow and get it driving good and go from there.
How do you kind of get the mojo back or momentum back after a downer of last week and a downer today?
Well, Jimmy started in the back here in the spring, and it worked out fine for him. So I think if you have your car driving good and you do the right things all day, we see it every weekend. Guys faced with adversity throughout the race get caught speeding on pit road, have a penalty on pit road, go to the back, and it seems like the guys that are good enough, you see them again in your mirror in about a run and a half. So I think it's definitely doable if we all do our part tomorrow, and we'll go from there.
Thank you for your time, Chase. Rick?
Well, Chase is right. In about a run and a half, you can get there, but the first stage ends on lap 85. So if you don't get that caution in between those brakes, you go green that whole time. It's going to be very difficult to get in that top 10 and get some points.
And he needs it.
And it's all about points at this point. It is about points and having a chance to win a race. Now, Jimmy Johnson won this race, but he had a problem. He won this race. You heard him say it, but it's not. If you win the race, all is good. But it's more than just getting a good finish. You also have to get as many points as possible.
Well, Chase was saying all the right things, but Sunday will be a test for the 21-year-old. Very simply, when you go to the back, it doesn't matter the car, it doesn't matter the strategy. At that point, it lands solely on the driver's shoulders to get you through the first 40 or 50 laps, making all the right decisions coming through traffic. So while he said all of the right things, it's still early in the weekend. The pressure will mount as Sunday comes. You know, Allen and Chase are going to have to put their heads together and have a good plan. Ryan Blaney did it. The blueprint's out there. He did it. He stayed calm and moved back through the pack. But Chase Allen's going to have to find some of that same sort of approach as we see McDowell up to the 23rd position.
McDowell jumps up to 23rd after being below the cut line. There are still 7 cars that have not taken a time as the red flag is displayed, and that ends round 1. So 7 cars didn't make it out onto the racetrack for this qualifying session. Interesting. Harvick was fastest. We'll see if he can continue that through the next 2 rounds.